You know that thing you're doing right now? Listening to my voice, thinking your own thoughts, that feeling of being you? Well, that's consciousness. It's the most familiar thing in the world, right? And yet, it's maybe the biggest riddle in all of nature. So, where do we even start? How do you unpack a mystery that's literally happening inside your own head?
Okay, to really get a feel for how deep this rabbit hole goes, let's try a little thought experiment. Imagine, a surgeon takes out your brain, splits it right down the middle, and puts each half into a brand new body. Now, both halves could survive, right? So both bodies wake up. But which one is you? Where did your awareness, your first-person point of view, actually go? Suddenly, this abstract idea gets pretty personal, doesn't it?
All right, before we get completely lost in these wild scenarios, let's just set up a basic definition. At its heart, consciousness is really about this dual awareness. It's not just seeing and hearing the world around you, it's also being aware of your own inner world. You know, your thoughts, your feelings, your sense of self. It's like a movie that's playing only for you, inside your head.
So here's where it gets really trippy. How can we ever be sure that anyone else is conscious? I mean, I know I have an inner life, but how do I know that you do? This leads to this wild idea called the philosophical zombie. Picture this. It's a being that looks, acts, and talks exactly like a person, but on the inside, there's nothing. No feelings, no awareness, just an empty shell running on autopilot. The lights are on, but nobody's home. And the scariest part? How could you ever prove they aren't real?
Yeah, that's a question we can't really answer, right? So let's pivot. Instead of getting stuck on what consciousness is, let's try asking, where did it come from? If we just assume it's a biological thing, then it must have evolved over time. So let's trace that journey. We're going to climb what you could call a ladder of awareness and see how a tiny spark of life could have blossomed into the rich inner world that you're experiencing right now.
Okay, so at the very bottom of this ladder, let's put a stone, a rock. It just sits there, right? It doesn't do anything, so we have no reason to think there's anything going on inside. But a simple organism? Now that's a different story. It has this basic drive. It has to stay alive. It needs energy. And to get that energy, it has to move. It has to act on the world. And that simple, fundamental need to do something, that's our first tiny spark, the very beginning of awareness.
And that little spark, it kicks off this whole evolutionary journey. We can actually see consciousness being built up through a series of, well, let's call them crucial upgrades. It all starts with just moving towards a goal. Then comes perceiving the world from far away. After that, life figures out how to make an inner map of its surroundings, and then how to predict the future. And the final, absolutely mind-blowing leap? Realizing that other creatures have minds too. Each step is built on the one before it, so come on, let's start climbing.
All right, step one on the ladder, directional movement. Sounds simple, but it's huge. Take this little worm, for example. It's not just wriggling around randomly. If it's hungry, it moves towards food. If it's full, it chills out. The key thing here is that its actions depend on its internal state, on its hunger. It's not just a reflex to something outside, it's being driven by a need from inside. That's a big deal.
Okay, next rung up, perception at a distance. Think about the evolution of something like vision. All of a sudden, the world isn't just a jumble of smells right next to you. It opens up into this huge 3D space. An animal can now see its goal way over there, lock onto it, and figure out how to get there through a complicated world. This is a total game changer for how you experience reality.
But what happens when that goal, goes behind a tree or something? That's where the next massive leap comes in. You have to create an inner map of the world. This is basically the birth of memory. The animal can hold the idea of the food in its mind. That lets it search for something even when it's out of sight. This whole concept is called object permanence, that critical realization that things still exist even when you can't see, hear, or touch them.
And here's a fun fact that shows you just how important this is. Human babies, they don't really get object permanence until they're about 8 months old. You play peekaboo, and for them, you've literally vanished. But a baby chicken? Get this, it figures it out within a day or two of being born. It just knows that the world is still there, even the parts it can't see.
So once you've got a memory of the past, you can take the next step, thinking about the future. And who's surprisingly good at this? Chickens. They can actually show delayed gratification. They'll turn down a small snack right now if they know they'll get a bigger one later. Now think about that. That's not just reacting to what's in front of them. That's a form of mental time travel,
making a choice based on a future that hasn't even happened yet.
Okay, all these steps have been leading us to the very top of the ladder. And this might just be the most complex, the most amazing feature of consciousness. Theory of mind. This is the gigantic leap where you realize other beings aren't just moving furniture. They're subjects, just like you. They have their own minds, their own wants and needs, and their own point of view on the world. And if you want a jaw-dropping example of this in action, look no further than the western scrub jay. So these birds hide food to eat later. But, and get this, if a scrub jay sees another jay watching it hide its food, it'll often pretend to fly away, wait for the other bird to leave, and then come back and move its stash to a brand new secret spot.
I mean, just think about what's going on inside that little bird's head. It's running a simulation of what the other bird is thinking. It knows the thief saw where the food was, knows it remembers that spot, and knows it will probably come back to steal it. That is some seriously sophisticated mind reading. And that ability, right there, thinking about what others are thinking, is the bedrock for pretty much all complex social behavior, from rivalry and deception to teamwork and even empathy.
So, there you have it. This whole ladder of awareness thing gives us a pretty good story for how consciousness could have been built, step by step. But what happens when one of those steps breaks? When we look at the mind's weirdest blind spots, these rare cases where our own awareness just falls apart, we start to see how fragile and, frankly, how bizarre this whole thing we call consciousness really is.
Take a condition called anosognosia. It's a neurological disorder where someone has a very real problem, like say their left arm is paralyzed, but they are completely 100% unaware of it. There's this huge gap, this disconnect between what's physically true and what their conscious mind is telling them.
And it gets even weirder. There's a specific type called Anton-Babinski Syndrome. In these cases, patients are cortically blind. The parts of their brain that process vision are damaged. They can't see a thing. But here's the kicker. They will confidently, forcefully deny that they're blind at all.
So what happens when you talk to them? Imagine you hold up, say, 3 fingers, and you ask a patient with this syndrome, hey, how many fingers am I holding up? Now remember, they can't see your hand, but they won't say, I don't know, and they won't say, I can't see.
Instead, they'll just guess a number, and when you tell them they're wrong, they still don't admit they can't see. Their brain just instantly makes up a plausible excuse, something like, oh, the lighting in here is terrible, or, well, I don't have my glasses on. It's like their conscious mind is papering over this giant hole in its reality, creating a totally seamless story, with absolutely no idea that it's lying to itself. It's incredible.
Cases like this, they really show you that the reality we all experience, it isn't nearly as solid as it feels. Which brings us all the way back to the biggest questions of all, these deep riddles about identity that science might, well, it might not ever be able to solve.
Okay, let's wrap up with one last head-scratcher, the swamp man paradox. Picture this. You're walking through a swamp, and a freak bolt of lightning hits you and, poof, you're completely disintegrated. But at that exact same millisecond, another bolt hits a nearby pile of mud and rearranges all the atoms into a perfect molecule-for-molecule copy of you. Same memories, same personality, same everything. This thing stands up, brushes itself off, and walks out of the swamp completely convinced that it's you. The question is it?
And what's so wild about this puzzle is that science is just silent. There's no experiment you can run to get the answer. There's no test to design. It's a question about the pure nature of identity itself, about what it means to be a continuous person through time. And that, well, that might be a question that's just forever beyond the reach of science.
And so we end up right back where we started, with a question that points right at the very heart of your own experience. If it's not your specific atoms, and it's not even the physical continuity of your body that makes you you, then what is it? What's that invisible thread that connects the person you were yesterday to the person you are right now and the one you'll be tomorrow? What really makes you you?